Franz von Kearney, writings by Frank Schmidt on the Danube Swabian people. These collected writings are republished in memory of the author, Frank Schmidt, so that others may continue to enjoy his work. May his spirit live on. Ludwig Schwan, teacher Ludwig Schwan, 1920 to 1945. The savior of his students is the untold story of a Danube Swabian hero from Karlsdorf in Banat. The fair land of Banat in southeastern Europe is bounded by the rivers Theus in the west, the Lesser Miresh, Maros, in the north, and the mighty Danube in the south. The Carpathian Mountains form its eastern border. Banat had been part of ancient Hungary for centuries, but was occupied by the Ottoman Turks after the defeat of the Hungarian army in the Mohacs in 1526. In his haste to escape capture by the Turks, the Hungarian king drowned in a nearby river. The surviving nobles then awarded the Holy Crown of Hungary to the king's brother-in-law, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, and the German nation whose seat was in Vienna. Although Hungary was occupied by the Turks for the next 150 years, the Habsburgs were the nominal kings of Hungary during that time. In the 17th century, the Turks tried to expand their Islamic empire into Europe, but were utterly defeated by Christian armies at the gates of Vienna on September 12, 1683. They were eventually driven out of Hungary by Austro-German armies under the legendary Prince Eugene of Savoy. In 1718, a peace treaty was signed and Banat reverted back to Hungary. For various reasons, Banat was administered by the Imperial Council in Vienna until the Ausgleich equalization of 1860. 7. When Austria, in order to populate and cultivate the wasteland of Banat, Emperor Karl V, issued an impopulation edict throughout his empire, which offered certain material benefits as well as personal freedom in perpetuity to those wishing to settle in Banat. Because of their proven loyalty and work ethic, Count Florimond Mercy, the able governor of Banat, who was himself a Lorrainer, especially favored German farmers and craftsmen from Lorraine, Alsace-Palatinate, and other southwest German principalities. Their settlements were dispersed among other peoples in the hope that these would emulate the industrious Germans. It was the Germans now known as Danube Swabians who were the first to introduce the steel plow to the virgin soil of Banat. They planted orchards, vineyards, as well as mulberry trees along the streets of their agricultural villages to provide food for the silkworms that were the basis of a thriving silk industry. They also introduced selective cattle breeding and hog raising. Mainly due to the Danube Swabians, Banat was eventually transformed from a backwater of Europe into one of the world's great breadbaskets. After the First World War, the victors forced Hungary to give up 2/3 of its territory. Over 90% of Banat was arbitrarily awarded to two royal dictatorships, Romania and the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovens, called Yugoslavia after 1929. This was contrary to the wishes of the affected peoples and made a mockery of the Allies' oft-proclaimed desire for self-determination of peoples, a propaganda ploy intended primarily to deceive their own people. The Danube Swabian settlements were thus split among three mutually antagonistic states, all of whom denied them certain rights. However, Danube Swabians are a tolerant and resilient people, and they soon adapted to the new political environment, and life went on much as it had before, albeit with certain precautions. Karlsdorf was founded in 1802 and was named after Emperor Karl V, who initiated the German settlement of Banat. In 1944, it had a population of 3,428 souls, all but 60 of whom were Danube Swabians. Besides being in the center of a rich agricultural area, it had 3 brickyards and was the home of the world-famous Hertz salami processing plant. Ludwig Schwan was born on September 28, 1920, in the Banat village of Vladimirovac, into a Danube Swabian family who were descendants of German pioneers. He became a teacher and taught in the 9th grade public school of Karlsdorf from 1942 to 1944. He was a dedicated teacher and became totally immersed in his profession. He founded and led the school choir, which among other things sang for the German forces radio station in Belgrade, which also made the song Lily Marlene popular among the troops of both sides in North Africa. On October 1, 1944, the railway station in Karlsdorf was crowded with Danube Swabians, eager to escape from the dreaded Red Army. Among them was Ludwig Schwan and his 12 to 15-year-old students. When the train finally arrived, it continued on without stopping at the station, to the utter dismay of those on the platform. It had apparently already been filled beyond capacity by wounded soldiers and civilians from east of Karlsdorf. In the confusion of the moment, Schwan took the initiative and commandeered 3 trucks from an army bakery unit and transported his students to Belgrade, which was still in German hands. They reached the city in the afternoon and immediately boarded a train that was leaving for the west. After traveling through dangerous partisan-infested territory, they arrived in Vienna on October 5th. The students were thoroughly exhausted, hungry, confused, and in despair at being separated from their parents. But their devoted teacher cheered them up and gave them confidence. The genocide of the Danube Swabians in Yugoslavia began in 1944 with the arrival of the Red Army and Tito's mostly illiterate partisans. Without accusing them of any wrongdoing, the communist regime stripped the Danube Swabians of all civil rights property and personal possessions and forced them into various death camps, where the majority died of starvation, typhoid fever, denial of medical aid, and physical brutality. Schwan's father was summarily shot by the partisans and his mother starved to death in a Tito concentration camp. The full horror of the Danube Swabian genocide has been intentionally covered up by the compliant media in the Free West to this day. Why? 2 days later, Schwan and his students arrived in Passau, Germany. There, the little refugee group was split up. The boys went with teacher Schwan to Lower Bavaria, and the girls, under the guidance of lady teacher Sauer, wound up in Upper Franconia. After the separation, Schwan wrote to the girls, "I have been your teacher for 2 years. Fate has now torn us apart. I believe that I was not only your teacher, but also your good comrade. I love you all, and you will remain part of me as long as I live." Near the end of January 1945, Ludwig Schwan and his boys were transferred to Bohemia under the auspices of the Kinderlandverschikung, a humanitarian organization in Germany during World War II, which took children from danger zones and transferred them into safer rural areas. In April 1945, with the Red Army fast approaching Prague, Schwan again gathered his charges and moved farther west by train. He got as far as Fürthenwald in Germany when the refugee train was strafed by American warplanes, and some of Schwan's students became casualties. The battered train then took them to Cham in the Palatinate, where they bedded down for the night in the waiting room of a local railway station. Early on the morning of April 18, 1944, American planes attacked this undefended civilian target. Teacher Schwan quickly roused his students and urged them to disperse outside. He was heard calling out Hansi Seppi, "Quick, get outside." After the attack, there was total silence. Ludwig Schwan and 7 of his boys died. He and his students escaped death at the hands of communists in the East, only to die months later in an American terror attack in the West. Local Dr. Arnold, who cared for the boys, wrote, "If we ask the survivors to talk about the incident, their voices choked with emotion, and they get tears in their eyes. The pain of having lost their beloved teacher and 7 of their friends has not gone away. The love for their teacher, who remained loyal to them, will remain with them as long as they live." The grave of Ludwig Schwan in the cemetery of Cham is hardly ever without fresh flowers. One of his greatest tributes is that his name has been included in a book entitled Deutsche National Helden, which delineates the lives of 100 German heroes over the past millennium. In this book, he has been given a place of honor among king's soldiers, scientists, inventors, and explorers who have contributed so much to the honor and glory of the German people. Danube Swabians should take pride in the fact that one of their own has been accorded a place of honor in such illustrious company.
Thanks for watching this episode on Ludwig Schwan, an unsung Danube Swabian hero from Karlsdorf, Banat. From the writings by Frank Schmidt, we explored Schwan's bravery and sacrifices. Banat's history, shaped by various forces, including Ottoman occupation and Christian victory, led to its transformation into a thriving agricultural hub. Schwan's role as a dedicated teacher in Karlsdorf left a lasting impact with a school choir and his quick-thinking saving students during the chaos of 1944. Facing the shadow of the Danube Swabian genocide, Schwan's efforts to lead students to safety were tragically cut short by a terror attack, claiming his life and those of 7 students. His legacy lives on among German heroes. If you enjoyed this episode, support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing with others interested in the Danube Swabians' history. For more information, check the show notes. Thanks for being with us, and until next time.
Wir sind Donauschwaben, Kinderskinder.